Welcome to the Grounds for Success podcast. I'm your host, Austin Seltzer. Together, we'll unveil the keys to success in the music industry. Join me as I explore my guests' life stories and experiences to uncover practical insights to help you align with your goals more effectively. Hey, coffee drinkers. Welcome to the Grounds for Success podcast. I'm Austin Seltzer, and I'm a mixing and mastering engineer with over 10 years of experience in the music industry. This episode is the final episode in season 1. I honestly can't believe we're here. I just, like yesterday, this was an idea in my head, and I was scrambling to get guests that were friends that I could reach out to, and creating this room, creating the idea of Grounds for Success, different names. So many things went into making this thing a reality. And I'm so stoked we're here. I love how season 1 came out. But in season 2, I'm going to flip the script over. We are going to elevate the audio, the video, the social media. My guests are going to continue to, shed light on what it took to become successful. But the little nuances of this podcast, I'm going to continue to try and elevate for you guys to get the best material, best guests, best stories, best way to deliver everything to you, make it look and sound as good as possible. That's the goal. And thanks for sticking with me through season 1. I can't wait to see what season 2 does. So my guest today is the artist Layto. I've done a whole lot of mixing for him, many singles, and then I did the entire album Alternative Psycho. I mixed and mastered the album, and his producer for this was Inverness. He's the EP over the whole record, and there were various other producers involved, as well as great songwriters like my buddy Brandyn Burnette. So you'll hear about that album, how it came to be, how he chose the team around him, and just really how he vibed with particular people that he knew could take him to where he wanted to go. Today we'll hear about his early life and how his parents instilled this thing in him that you have to work hard for what you want. Nothing is given. So he has a very blue-collar mentality, and that pure work and perseverance is what will get you to where you want to go. And that really shows through who he is and the music he puts out. We learn how at a young age, Layto would listen to the radio and take very popular songs and rewrite the words to those songs. It just was like an early creative flex of the muscle of, coming up with something unique. And I think that's fun because I kind of resonate with that as well. I did something very similar whenever I was younger. So I thought that was a fun little tidbit. We also hear about how Layto was studying to become an English major, probably going to go into law, but then he had a song pop off on some blogs and on YouTube, and so he pursued music instead of those, which, law to music is quite a big switch, so that was interesting as well. We hear about the story on how Layto met his first manager. It's a pretty funny story about how he came across this list of managers and how ultimately he pivoted from that manager to Garrett, who now manages him today. You'll also hear this funny story about how I came across Layto's music, this one particular song called Houndin', and it popped up on one of my playlists. And at the time, I was making a playlist of artists that I wanted to mix. But, I didn't have contacts to, but they were people I wanted to work with. Layto was on there, and it's pretty serendipitous that my good buddy, Boy Blue, Sam, had just met him, had worked with him because Layto signed a position. And then without Sam knowing, he introduced me to Layto, and from then on, I've mixed his music. All right, let's get caffeinated. My brother in coffee.
Yes.
I'm
Rate it?
Well, yeah. So I made him just my special coffee, and I put a splash of oat milk, but the real love is in the coffee.
Yeah, not a big oat milk guy. Oat milk rather. But it's very good. I'm just a regular milk guy. I know I'm a traditionalist in that regard.
Yeah.
But this is very good. Yeah. Not too bold. But also not too, like, I like diner coffee. That's
okay.
I really like shit coffee, like mug coffee.
No, I know what you mean. It's called functional coffee.
Yeah.
It gets you to where you need to go
100%.
With no frills.
Yeah. There's no qualms about it. My dad used to buy like the grossest coffee growing up. That's why I think I'm like, it's kind of like nostalgic to me at this point.
Yeah.
You know, the cheapy
Just
Maxwell.
For you guys listening and watching, I just put so much love and effort into the coffee, hand grinding it.
I'm like, it's decent.
Just so much love into it. He's like, fuck, I love diner coffee.
No, it's very good. It's very good. It's definitely getting the job done too. I'm alert as fuck right now. This is like my 5th cup, by the way.
I think it's got, oh shit.
Yeah, it's good though.
Damn. Okay, it's my 3rd.
I might have to throw like some booze in here to even me out.
Yeah.
Shortly. We're good though.
That's funny. I should have bought Folgers. For anybody who has Layto to their studio.
Don't forget.
Diner coffee.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's get into it.
Bro, Layto, thank you so much for coming.
Cheers.
It's so funny. I don't know. I just trained myself to say Layto.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you go by? Like if you're just like chilling with homies.
My birth name.
Okay.
Paul. Yeah. No good.
But wait, whenever you're out at an industry event.
Layto.
Cool.
Even like Garrett calls me Layto.
Really?
You know? Yeah. I think it's just like, you know, it's like the foundation of how they know me.
Garrett, do you even know his name's Paul?
Yeah, he knows. Actually,
shout out Garrett.
Yeah, shout out Garrett. The tour manager for the tour that we were just on, like, found out my real name and he kept calling me Paul because he thought it was funny. Like, you know, he's like, it's not very star-like.
What? But Layto is.
Yeah. It's better than Paul. You know?
Dude, I love that. Yeah, I got to see you recently play at the Peppermint last date of the tour.
Yeah.
She was awesome.
Thanks, man.
We've been working together for so long on all these tracks. And I mean, I saw you at another event, but like this one as a tour, it was fucking awesome to see our tracks like played.
I know, dude. I'm excited. And like in the fall, we're going to do like shows. I think we're going to headline some shows, select shows, and we'll do the album, which is great. Which, you know, for those of you who don't know, he mixes my entire project. Mixed and mastered.
Dude, I'd feel so fortunate.
Yeah, dude, likewise. You do a great job. I feel like it took the sound to another level. Kind of the story of my life, like just finding the right people to kind of enhance whatever I'm doing, you know? I've just been very lucky in that regard.
I think that's one of the keys to success. That's kind of, you know, obviously what this podcast is about, but it's surrounding yourself with people who do whatever you want to do at a high level and help you get to that goal.
Yeah.
Like aligning yourself with those people and getting away from people who are not moving you towards that.
Yeah, 100%. I think like I learned, luckily, fortunately, and I think just by happenstance, but I've been fortunate enough to kind of understand that at a young age, like it's the people around you, you know, you can't do everything on your own. And especially in music, which, you know, like there's so many moving parts where I'm like, fuck, like it's almost overwhelming. Like, okay, who's going to do this? Who's going to do this? And I think a lot of artists try to just delegate too much individually. And it's like, no, you kind of need like the right people to kind of propel whatever you're doing, because you're not going to be able to do certain things better than somebody that's like specifically niched for that thing, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've been lucky enough to just be able to focus on what I need to focus on, which is music and content, and everything else kind of, I trust everybody else around me, you know? So that's been a huge bonus.
Yeah. We'll get into content creation and music creation and this and that. I want to hear so many answers to questions that I have that I know will help people. But on the topic of finding people that are great at certain niches, there are so many producers in this industry that are so incredibly good through the entire process. They can mix and master as well. But there's something to be said about just like being able to say, this is done on production and passing it to somebody else. Not because maybe I can do their job better, but I'm not as close to the music as they are. So I can maybe hear certain things that will elevate it.
Yeah, definitely. And like with our projects, I think that's been another huge addition, because, you know, we always like joke, we get mixitis, but it's like if I have a producer, myself, Garrett, listening to a track, A&Ring it for a month or whatever, it's like after a while, I'm like, I don't even know if this is good, you know? So it's always great to have you in, and then you parse out some instruments and it's like, oh shit, it's almost a different record, but it's always better. Having somebody who specializes in just mixing and mastering is like, you know, you're not focused on the production end. You just have that one thing that you do very well, which, you know, I love. I think it's so important, you know, and too many people wear too many hats with production. They do, you know, everything under the sun. It's like, how do you do anything so well if you're doing everything, you know? How could you do one thing great?
With that being said, the producer that you're working with a lot right now, Inverness, just dangerously good at pretty much everything.
The Wizard of Dawes, I call him. I dubbed him that, and that's going to stick.
Yeah, shout out Rob. I love you, dude. You are a monster.
Yeah, he's the best.
Yeah, I guess he EP'd the project, but I think he produced every single song on it with other people, right?
Yeah, every song.
Yeah, and it sounds so cohesive. So, like, that's a great body of work.
Thank you.
I can't believe you guys aren't calling it an album. I don't know where the cutoff.
We are.
Oh,
yeah, we
is
did.
it an album?
Yeah, we did. It's seven songs. Initially, it was going to be 5, and then we found out that like there is a 7-song thing with Spotify or whatever with DSPs, and we just decided to put out an album. You know.
Okay.
And yeah,
I don't know when something's called an album or an EP anymore. It's
so innocuous, but it is 7 songs though.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it feels good though. And he was very instrumental in like sonically driving whatever we were trying to say, you know, with Alternative Psycho, which is the album. Trying to kind of like blend the sonics with my lyrics, and every sound has like a cohesion, like you said, and it's fucking cool. It's like what I would listen to growing up, where I'm like, oh my God, like how do you make an album? It seems so daunting, you know?
I actually, it sounds funny because I'm on the project, but this is the music that I would listen to.
Cool.
It really is, like, straight up. Especially what I feel like you guys honed in on these tracks is this thing where the final hook is like so fucking heavy. Yeah, you go into like kind of not an EDM drop, but it's like a drop. Mm-hmm. It's like it literally drops out a lead vocal and just goes hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is like an EDM drop kind of with like a scream vocal that we always kind of blend in, and it becomes part of like a synth, which is cool, which is something we were like, ooh, this is sick. This would be like a nice earmark for the album, which we don't feel like anyone's really doing, you know?
I haven't heard it, and it's on almost every track. Like there's something like that I feel like if you're listening throughout the album, one, it threads it all together, but I feel like as a listener, you're also like, oh shit, that part's coming.
Yeah.
Like it's going to happen. I haven't heard this track yet, but I know it's coming.
Yeah, I know. Honestly, in hindsight, I was like, this will be great for retention, hopefully. If they know like, oh shit, there's a drop coming. It's like a different part of the record, you know, that they can kind of look forward to, as opposed to like the same kind of like double chorus at the end of each song, you know, which is kind of predictable. Try to switch it up a little bit anyways, you know?
Yeah, I love that. I love this album, dude. It'll be out whenever this podcast is out. So everything that the viewers either watching or listening, this album's probably already out and you can go listen to exactly what we're talking about. But sitting here today, we're anticipating this shit to fuck up Spotify. I'm sure TikTok and
fucking Pinterest.
I love that. So now let's go all the way back.
Mm-hmm.
I want to understand how you were brought up, kind of some about your parents, about early life. I want to learn what made you, what made you want to get into music, and all the things that I'm sure you gave up, and things that could have been a part of your life, but this is what took over.
Growing up, middle class, you know, lower middle class, tough kind of upbringing in the sense of like, you know, kind of chaotic and but like good family, loving family, and my mother and my father worked exceedingly hard, like numerous jobs, to both of them, my entire life, you know. So from a young age, had a really good idea of what a work ethic is. No complaining, no bitching or moaning about, you know, putting in the work, and I just like a good foundation of you got to get shit done, you got to work hard. If you want something in life, you got to work hard at it, which, you know, now like is good for me to take into music, because I think a lot of people, and you know, I think there's like two different types of people, especially now, just kind of understanding the music industry. There's people that get lucky, you know, luck into something, have a viral hit, whatever it may be, and don't have the foundation maybe, or they, you know, they might make a little money and then they're like, okay, what's they rest on their laurels. For me, it's like, and I don't know if this is a character fault or if this is a good thing, but I'm never satisfied in the sense of like, it doesn't matter what it is. And I think we talked about this earlier, like what's next? Like, are you looking forward to the album coming out? And I'm like, I should take a minute and enjoy what we did. But yeah, like my brain works in such a way, it's like, I'm on to the next thing. And I want to make sure I beat whatever we do here. Very competitive attitude in that regard.
It's very healthy to compete with yourself and not
others.
Just look at others.
Yeah. I mean, and I've done that in the past, especially in the beginning of my career where I'd be like, why don't I have what the fuck they have? I'm working, it's like people like Garrett and people that are in my circle have done a good job of like, I surround myself with people, like-minded people who, are healthy for me to be around, that have instilled like a good, healthy outlook. Got to stay level-headed. But yeah, like my upbringing for sure is instilled a really strong work ethic at the very least. What I might lack in certain skills or, there's a million people that are probably more talented than I am, but like they're certainly not going to outwork me, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I have to operate. I always kind of operate from the standpoint of like, I have to outwork the competition because, they might have a leg up, a better voice or, a better song, whatever it may be. And I like that. I kind of like, I don't know, it gives me great, it puts me at ease knowing that like at the end of the day, I can just focus on the work and not have to worry about results because I feel like results will come, given the amount of effort you put in, always. As long as it's efficient and smart and not just like aimlessly doing shit with no results. You got to be obviously intelligent about it, but yeah, definitely from a young age, got that instilled in me and have taken that to my career.
I love that. I want to hear, what are some of the jobs that your mom and your dad would have done? Because it sounds like there were a lot of them, just whatever they needed to do.
Yeah. My mother was, first, when I was younger, she was a mail woman. She like at a young age passed the exam to become a mail woman. And that was like really impressive. She was like 18 and did that for like 10 years. And then she had kids. And then we moved from like the city of Boston to like a suburb, and she became a lunchwoman, throughout my childhood, actually at my school. And my father worked like 3 jobs. He worked as like a sales rep for a company, an asphalt company, pricing out driveways and shit like that. And then he was also a custodian at night,
Just hustling.
Yeah. And then he started his own business when he was like 48, 50. And he's doing really well. Handyman stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's like a natural born salesman. And that's another thing. Like my mother's super creative and sweet. She's like total empath. My dad's a great guy, like, but he's also like a shark. He's very, hustler. Like will find ways to make money. And I feel like I've gotten a good kind of scramble of the two of them. I got my mom's kind of sensitive creativity at times, and then I also got my dad's business prowess.
Yeah, that's killer. That's a great concoction there.
Yeah, lucky me.
Yeah.
And siblings, beating the shit out of me at a young age and, toughening me up.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about them.
They're great. Yeah. 3 siblings. I got an older brother, older sister, and then a middle brother. And, very similar in the sense of tough-minded,
What do they do?
Oh, they're all so different. My brother was in the military for a while. Now he like does social work. My sister works for care.com. She's like one of the administration there, and my other brother owns like a detail company, like a car detailing company that him and I used to work.
Cool.
Yeah.
So another entrepreneur.
Yeah, exactly. No one doing music or anything. That's just kind of me.
Yeah, I'm curious. So, okay, that's what your siblings are like and your parents.
Mm-hmm.
But what were some of the activities and things that you did early on in life that I'm guessing something flexed your creativity in some way?
Yeah. I was actually always into sports.
Cool.
Really, really into sports at a young age, playing basketball. And
that's why you asked me about basketball.
I played a lot of sports growing up, which I think was also good to kind of learn how to work with others. And again, like the competition thing, you really have to work hard if you want to be on the team and, be successful, and, self-responsibility, which is another thing that I think it's easy to kind of, especially in music, if shit's not going well, it's easy to point blame and be like, well, the label's not doing this, or my manager's not doing this, and I've been of the mind of what am I doing? What can I do? don't fucking wallow. Don't complain about what others are doing. Just worry about what you can worry about, you know? And it's not always easy to do that, obviously. You know, there's shit that's not in our control, you know?
Absolutely.
But it's a good like paradigm to look, you know, a good lens to look through, because then you're never really like expecting anything from anyone else, and you can just worry about what you can. And then when shit happens, you're like pleasantly surprised, you know? But yeah, I played a lot of sports. I was always into writing though, you know, at a young age, poetry, and like, you know, I loved English. I loved writing. I loved reading. I still love reading. And so I think that kind of exercised my creative muscle to an extent. And then, yeah, I kind of got into music like at a young age, but kind of floated around, wasn't super serious about it until maybe like 17, 18.
Was it like bands with friends or
Not
something?
Not even. Just like I loved listening to music, and I would sing privately, but nothing like, I would never like sing in front of people or anything like that, you know?
Yeah.
You know, mainly hip hop and rap and stuff. I would take like songs that I heard, and I would always like change the lyrics up, you know, in my own, like, I would like write new lyrics. And that's, I guess like that's like the beginning of being a lyricist.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Would you try and find like the karaoke version, or like just the instrumental on YouTube or anything? Or
not even like back then. I would just listen to them on the radio or like on a CD, and then just fucking like on the spot rewrite lyrics, you know? But we didn't even like have, I mean, it wasn't 1940, but like we didn't have, you know, you weren't downloading shit from YouTube at that point. We had LimeWire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Got plenty of viruses from it.
Me too.
Yeah, man.
I don't want to ask what kind of viruses from what.
Probably from like trying to get like drops that came out, like leaks, you know, weeks ahead of time. I remember a couple of times that like big albums leaked. And do you know Avicii, his levels?
Oh
yeah. I mean, there were plenty of times that you would, or like Sandstorm or something, and it would just be like 10 tracks of Sandstorm, and you thought you had downloaded the new, you know, whatever Drake album or something. But those aren't the viruses, you know?
Yeah, no, I would imagine something else.
That's funny. Okay. So like 17, 18, why, like, what was the feeling of like, okay, I want to take this serious. Like, I want to do music, like in any capacity, not just rewriting lyrics. What was the impetus of that?
I don't know, to be honest. I was at college, and we had a little booth that we could rent out. I was skipping class and like went to this little area just to sleep. And then I walked by this little studio, and I asked like one of the administrators, I'm like, what is that? And they're like, oh, you can rent out a music room, like a little booth to record in. And I was like, I should probably try this, you know? And so what I did was like, I learned how to use Logic, and I went in there and I would just make like very rudimentary beats on the piano. Or some of my friends from my hometown had like little piano riffs, and then I would add like drum kicks and, you know, just very like super stock bullshit from Logic. And I'd start constructing songs. And then I very quickly realized like, okay, what's the next step? Like, how do I eliminate my nonsense producing and get a real producer? I knew at least you needed a producer. And so I reached out to a bunch of producers. Again, had some like, you know, very like C-level stuff going on, but I was able to kind of like cut my teeth and learn, you know, what a good producer is versus a bad producer versus like my production. And then like, all right, what else do we need? We need mixing. We need, you know, so that was good. Like for me, that was like 6 months of me not releasing anything, just kind of learning like how to do it, you know. I knew how to write a song. Like I've always written, but I didn't know how to, you know, I didn't know how to lay my vocals in or how my vocal personally would sound, you know, which keys would work for me. And so that was like, it was great. It was like a year and a half of just cutting my teeth and learning like shit records, a million songs that stink that would never get released, but it's like good for you to just build on. Like you said, mixing a million sync records. Yeah. It's like getting the 10,000 hours in, you know?
Yeah. For those listening, we had a little conversation before this where, I worked for a company, and between all of the albums that I mixed and then different custom tracks that were being pitched for things, and then just like random off tracks, like I think I mixed about 2,000 tracks before starting my own mixing business. And I mean, that's where I'd figured out what my sound was, my workflow, how to interact with somebody professionally, how to deal with notes, which is a whole thing, because I need to figure out how to decipher the notes, you know, the whole thing. But this was your proving ground. Like,
Yeah.
let me just figure out how to do this.
Yeah, totally. And then
where did you go to college though? And what were you going to college for? Like, if music wasn't a thing, what were you going to be?
English.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I can
English.
see it.
And
you
me,
have some glasses, like thick rim glasses.
An English professor. I was thinking maybe like law down the line. I was just, because I'm an argumentative person. So I was like, maybe this could be.
Looking at his girl, by the way. Like
she's like smirking. She knows.
Like, hell yeah, this motherfucker.
I just wasn't even sure. I was one of those kids. I went to school, and there's so many people that were like, I'm going for science. I'm going for engineering, and I'm like, I'm not very particularly good at anything. Like I don't even quite know what I want to do, and especially at like 18, I was like, I don't even want to go to school. Like I have no idea what I want to do. I just felt like it was a giant waste of time. And I'm like, I like to read and I like to write, so I'll go to school for that. But I floated around. I went to like 3 different schools, and I went to community college and then transferred into a school in Massachusetts. And I actually never finished because we had a song that did well like my senior year, and I never finished. I'm like 6 credits shy. So give me my fucking honorary degree.
Yeah, right. That's cool. Yeah. We'll get to that because I want to hear a little bit more of how you went from renting this booth and doing some sessions here and there. Mm-hmm. Like I'm guessing you locked in with somebody that you felt could take you where you wanted to go, or at least somebody that you locked in with and felt good about.
Boda.
Wow.
Matt Boda, I found him on Sound Better. And believe it or not, so I worked with a couple people, like an ex-radio DJ from this small podunk town that I lived in, which he was like 50, great guy, but like he was using like gear from the 80s. And I remember I did like a song, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like there has to be a much more seamless, like non-antiquated way to do this. Otherwise, like I might be out.
Yeah.
And so then I went on Sound Better, and I'm like, oh, what a great like website to find other producers and stuff. And then in the beginning with Boda, it was just like work for hire. Didn't know him, obviously. I would like send in an idea. He would send in an instrumental. I would lay over it. And I think he thought like, okay, this kid can write a song. And I knew like his production was great just because what he would send back. I'm like, holy fuck, like this is exactly what I wanted. But I would get a mix like every month, you know? And it was just like, fuck, like I wish. Slowly and surely, like we worked on a few songs. And then got familiarized and got his number, and then just kind of like the relationship evolved to where I could text him. And but ironically, like the first song we ever did, I put out like a little EP, and it just kind of went bananas on YouTube through like those like curating companies like Cloud Kid and Strap Nation.
Really?
Those ancillary, yeah. Like we hired a PR woman. I got a manager. This is a whole separate story, but I interned for a company. Actually here, I won't say the name because I don't want to get in trouble, and they put me at the front desk, and at the front desk I had like, not legal at all, but I had access to like all the managers of all the big artists, and I like screenshotted all of them. And so when I was done with my internship, I went home and I emailed all of them, just demos of my shit, like literally like thousands of emails, and I got like 3 responses. And then one of the 3 was this manager who became my initial manager, who kind of like maybe had heard something and like liked me and liked my tenacity. And he's like, let's put out a project. And we put out a project, and then we hired this PR woman, and she got all those like YouTube channels to post my shit. It just went kind of fucking nuts. Like the first day, it got like 10,000 subs.
Wow.
It was crazy. It was a song called Little Poor Me, which isn't even like my sound anymore. But for some reason, just by like pure serendipity, it kind of did well, and that is the moment where I was like, okay, this could be maybe it could be a career.
I didn't even know that. That's so cool.
Yeah,
I feel like one thing I didn't tell you, but on this podcast, I don't do research.
Good.
I want to have a genuine conversation and not an interview.
Yeah, cool.
And pretty much I have people on here I work with, so I know some, you know, and we have good interaction and whatnot, but I don't do the deep digging that some other people do with interviews. And so that's really fucking cool to hear. So Matt made this track with you?
Yeah. It's called Little Poor Me.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this thing pops, and that's your senior year?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And that was 2018. And then what happened was I put out some music, that wasn't really aligned with that song. That was like the one track, the outlier track on the album. And then a lot of the shit was kind of like hip hop, kind of EDM. It just like, there was no cohesion. I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. Mm-hmm. That didn't do so well. Because I put out that song and I'm like, this is going to be fucking easy. Like, holy crap. Like, I thought I had like the Midas touch, you know, and far from it, you know. And it took me like, and another thing too was I didn't have like the proper guidance in the sense that I understood like this is where Garrett really like levels me up, because he understands like release scheduling and, you know, like staying on content, put out a song every month, you know. If you're not like at a certain level, like there's so many artists that are trying to clamor to the top. It's like, if you're not front of mind, like you're falling back. So it's like a record every month type of thing, which, you know, took me a couple of years to kind of like get serious about, to be honest, and get serious about my career and not be like just floating around, like put out a song and go fuck off with my friends. And, you know, like I love writing music and I found that to be like a really great outlet, but I wasn't like super serious about my life. And at that time I was kind of fucking off a little bit. And
it's really tough, dude. I mean, this is not a full-time job. It's like five people's worth of full-time job. It's a lifestyle.
It is.
If you're really serious, like you have to give up everything.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And luckily, like, you know, in that vein, having somebody like Garrett and like, you know, honestly, like even my content guy, Tommy Kelly, shout out to Tommy.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I got 4 or 5 people, and you included, honestly, like,
thanks, man.
Where it's like 24/7, drop everything we're doing. Like, if something needs to get done, we get it done. Like, employing ingenuity, constant phone calls. It is like 24/7, you know, which I had to kind of get used to that. And I had a moment where I had to realize, is this like what I want to do? I had a really bad show like a couple of years ago in Chicago, and he kind of sat me down and was like, dude, do you want to do this? And if so, like, you need to get serious about your life. And from that point forward, I was like, all right, I'm moving to LA. I'm not fucking around with friends anymore. I'm going to get serious, you know? And that's when shit kind of like, not just resting on the laurels of old music. It was like, okay, let's put out some music that people will fuck with, and, you know, just keep trying to beat the record, not think about the song that we just put out, move on to the next one, beat the song, you know, keep writing.
Yeah.
It's been good.
Wait, so where in this story did you meet Garrett? Because we'll talk about him a little bit. We were in 2017, 2018 just now, right?
Yeah. I would say like 20. When did we meet him? Like 2020? Like three and a half years ago at this point.
Okay, so
you know what?
Maybe that skips forward a little bit.
Yeah, well, there was like a 2-year period where I was with that other manager where like I didn't really understand what I was doing. That wasn't a great fit between him and I. We would kind of clash. I was super like, you know, in hindsight, I was kind of like pesty. I expected things, and now like, you know, where I am now in the sense of like understanding that you don't just like, you're not just giving shit. I was kind of like impulsive with him, which I can imagine probably was so annoying to him. Like, yeah. I didn't even like bring in any money for him, and I was just like, just badgering him. I'm like, we should get this.
Yeah,
you know?
I know. It's tough. It's tough because we don't see everything that managers do.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a conversation with mine just recently, Spencer. I fucking love him. He's amazing. But I don't see everything that he does behind the curtain, and I'm not a micromanager, but at a certain point you want to check in and you're like, hey man, you know, what's going on with this, that, and the other? And we just don't know all that they do. And then at the end of the day, if they're not making any money, they're working for free.
Yeah, totally.
You know? Totally.
Well, ironically, like with him, I do see everything now, because him and I are like good friends at this point, like really good friends. And like, so he, you know, I know like he clues me in, we talk every day, like, and by seeing how much he does, it gave me an appreciation of like, oh, okay, like if he's working this hard, what the fuck am I doing? You know, I better work twice as hard, you know? But like there was a 2-year period where, it wasn't a great fit. I parted ways with my other manager, and I was kind of in transit, and this kid from my hometown who's like not at all related to music and not somebody like that you would ever think would understand anything about music hit me up, and he's like, you should reach out to this dude, Garrett, who works at Republic. And so I was like, and he's from the same area, like a town over. We actually live on the same road, like 10 minutes apart from each other.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, okay. And I knew like if I DM'd him and I mentioned where we lived, he would respond because it's such a small community and it's like fucking cool if someone's doing something from there. So
Totally.
yeah, he did. And I met him like a day before COVID in New York City, a day before everything got shut down, which is ironic.
It hit hard in New York.
And I wouldn't have been able to meet him, which is kind of also serendipitous. But yeah, her and I drove. I remember my dad drove us down there, and we had a dinner with him and another guy that was managing me at the time through Republic, his partner at the time. And
so you had a manager in between?
No, I had no managers. It was me, Garrett, and another dude that worked at Republic, Steve, who initially was like co-managing, but now it's just Garrett and I. Yeah, just from the jump, like him and I just connected and just slowly evolved into like friends, and we just see eye to eye on a lot of things, and then like musically he has a really good ear, so he really A&Rs records with me, and it just made shit like way more fun and easy in the sense of like creating, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he, as a manager, not many managers like give me pinpointed notes, and he does. And
because everybody knows.
Yeah. But I mean, I like that he has an opinion.
Yeah.
And he's got taste.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I mean, and he can also talk more analytical. So it's not like this miscellaneous thing that I have to decipher. I mean, which some managers or some A&Rs give you kind of things like that. No, he's like, this thing, you know, do this to that.
Yeah.
It's like, I love that. That's
I
great.
do too.
And it elevates the record.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we do it with the notes with mixing. We do it with the notes with production. We do it with everything, marketing plan. Like we get very granular with everything we do, which, you know, I'm not innately like that, I suppose, but he's kind of like, kind of made me like that in certain ways. And I don't know, it's been good to be able to look at things from like an analytical perspective. Plus, I think him coming from a label, he really has like a leg up knowing what's cutting edge and, you know, with the importance of TikTok and then how to like look at those numbers and understand how it translates and not just like doing random shit, but niching down and just all sorts of random shit that really honestly matters when you're talking about promoting a record or, you know, building your brand as an artist. It's like, I'm very fortunate, honestly, in that regard to have somebody like him to, you know, like propel what I'm doing in the right way. Like we said earlier, working efficiently, and it's awesome, you know.
For sure. So we talked about the track that had you leave college, but what is the first track? I mean, you probably made some decent money off that if it streamed well, or you made some money, but what was the first track that like really popped off?
Houndin'.
Yeah. And I mean, I can tell my story about that because I've never told you this, but I want to hear from you, like how did that track come about, and like what was the whole trajectory of from start to popping off?
I could imagine you maybe thought that track was about a woman.
I didn't. No,
really?
I didn't. Like, I'll be honest with you. I don't fucking hear words, man.
Yeah, you're just so mix-centric.
It's not even that. I am so about the vibe. This sounds miscellaneous and goofy, and probably people listen will be like, wait, dude, you are editing and EQing and this and that, like the vocal. But the thing is I want the instrumental to feel amazing, and I want the vocal to feel amazing with that, and all move together, and I want you to be able to hear every word. But sometimes I don't even know what the words are saying.
That's interesting.
Until the record is done and I'm listening in my car and cruising around, then I can listen to the words. But I'm focused on making it just feel a certain way.
Do you have a hard time like listening to what you mix? Like will you listen back to a record that we worked on and you're like, oh fuck, I wish are you able to listen to what you work on?
Yeah. Early on, I wasn't. Early on, like whenever I don't know, whenever I was just like putting out maybe the first like 100 or so tracks of just like my mixing business, not for the Sync Company. But yeah, I definitely did. I kept on hearing things that I could have done better. But then I guess I started seeing people really fucking resonating with the records. Like I'd be out at, you know, wherever, just a show out somewhere. And then I'd bump into somebody, dude, I love this so-and-so record. Dude, your mix on it, holy crap. And I'm like, oh man, that's the one that I thought I could have done better. And then you realize nobody gives a fuck.
No, I know.
That's the thing. If it sounds good,
Yeah.
if there's like a certain threshold of good,
Yeah.
that's what we're aiming for. It needs to feel great. It doesn't have to sonically be the fucking Mona Lisa.
Well, that's with you, like hiring you and how do we meet? Through Boy Blue?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is shout out to him. Which I remember when he kind of floated you, and I'm like, yeah, maybe. And then like we met, and working with you initially, I was like, I remember having a conversation with Garrett where I'm like, oh, we've like crossed over into like this could be on the radio. Not saying it's going to be, but it's like sonically it could be, and that's all I've ever wanted. It's like as long as I'm in the arena, like there's no like I's to be dotted or T's to be crossed. It's there, and then it's up to other random fucking shit to happen. But it's like as long as it's there, it's just perfect, you know? And so
I totally agree.
Yeah, and it's like now I can listen back to and I can appreciate it. Whereas like some of my older shit, you know, sometimes I hear something, I'm like, fuck, I wish I did something differently there, you know?
I think every track that I've worked on of yours could play on the radio. I really think that, like, truthfully. But, you know, then it's like up to
the radio gods.
Yeah, the radio gods. But my story with Houndin, funny enough, it came up on a playlist. I don't know which playlist. I mean, it was too long ago at this point. But I put a little heart on it. You know, I liked it on Spotify.
Oh, before you knew me?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
And not just that, my previous managers had me do like this kind of homework thing where I would basically go and find artists that I wanted to work with. And Houndin and Layto was on that list.
No shit.
Funny enough. And I just didn't have a way to reach you. I mean, you weren't with Position. That was before that. I had no way to reach you. And it's so funny because Sam didn't know that, Boy Blue. But whenever he was like, bro, I got to introduce you to Layto. He's looking for a mixer. I was like, Layto. And then I looked and I was like, oh, fuck, Houndin.
Wow.
Man, I love this track. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. And so now we're here.
Wow, that's so weird. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we can even, whenever we're done with this, we'll look on my Spotify and it's...
I believe you. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
I loved that track. Like whenever I heard it, I was like, oh man.
Thank you.
This is the real deal. So now I get to hear it. What's the story?
The story is that the initial manager that I had, we had a falling out, and I had like no money, and I was working as a car detailer. And I don't know how much I want to say about this, to be honest, but I was in a bit of a pinch, and I was getting like I was trying to get out of my sunset clause with him, and I was kind of getting like, you know, getting shit from him and, you know, payouts and whatnot. I didn't have any contract with him, and I was starting to talk to Garrett, and I was like, fuck, man, like this guy's asking me to pay him this much for these records and then all future records moving forward, which just like wasn't appropriate considering like I worked with him on like one project. And I was just like fucking angry as hell and felt stuck, and I had no money. I didn't realize like I signed like a deal with Trap Nation for my first EP from that first record that I thought like was going to change my life, and it ended up like, you know, you get an advance for like X amount of dollars, which is really nothing. Mm-hmm. And then you owe the label so much money and incurred costs, you know, for 5 years or whatever. So I was like in the hole essentially, had no money, working a shit job, detailing cars in Massachusetts where it's cold fucking 8.5 months out of the year, you know? And I was just so angry. He was like threatening legal action. I'm like, what the fuck? I barely have like a pot to piss in. And I literally wrote it on my lunch break on a little notepad. I wrote the whole thing in like 5 minutes.
Crazy.
Just so fucking angry. Just, you know? And I had already had an instrumental from Matt that was really cool that I was kind of like sitting on. And I had just watched the Elvis documentary, The Preacher. And so I had like Elvis kind of in my subconscious, and that's where I got the, you ain't nothing, like kind of like Elvis growl, where I was like, man, I'll put this in the record.
Houndin.
And then I called it Houndin, yeah. And it was Houndin because I was being hounded by my previous manager. So it just kind of...
nothing but a hound dog.
Yeah, you ain't nothing but a houndin' ass bitch for this one.
Right.
But yeah, it was very kind of serendipitous. It felt right. It's one of those things where like, you know, I knew it was going to do well. Even with, I had Little Poor Me that did well. I had some other records that like did well. This record, Beauty. So I had like a somewhat of an audience, nothing big at all, but like for me, it was like, holy shit, I have fans. And I just knew. Zero promotion, zero marketing, zero exposure, zero profile.
Wow.
I just put it out and I'm like, I know this is going to fucking smoke. I don't know why. I just have a feeling intuitively. Put it out and it like did super well for me. It's all relative, obviously, but like for my
40 million's a lot. What's it out now on Spotify alone?
It's up there, 40 million or so, yeah.
But the thing is if we could use something like Muso, do you know Muso.ai or Muso?
Oh, yeah.
If you could check all socials or all platforms, I bet it's closer to 100 million.
I think it is with like YouTube, with other channels reposting it and shit.
Oh, then for sure. I mean, but dude, that's a big song.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, it was able to, you know, it was kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, like I have another song now, where it's like, now it's like a career, you know, it's not just like, oh, I had one song in 2018, you know?
Yeah.
And it was personal. I think like ultimately like with music and from what I've come to understand is authenticity lyrically. The audience always knows, just like you know as an audience member, when you hear a song, you can tell when something's disingenuous rather than genuine.
Yeah.
And that one was from the heart, you know? So I think that's why people liked it. And it's like super masculine and angry. And it's funny because like at my shows, you know, obviously it's like kind of a bit, but I would preface it and say like, hey, like, you know, I have to dispel any rumors that I'm not a misogynist because, you know, like it could be construed that I'm talking about like an ex-girlfriend, which is kind of funny. But that's part of the irony. It's like, it's not about a girl. It's about a fucking guy that used to manage me, you know?
Wow. Yeah, we got to push that little bit right there, like on socials, because I mean, that's cool. I like that it could be taken many different ways.
Yeah, it's very interpretive, which I think is good.
All great art is.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
but it's a superpower to be able to channel that anger into a pen on a paper. Like that's very difficult to do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where it came from, to be honest. Like truly, I mean, people have asked me that and I'm just like, I don't know. Just kind of pour it out, to be honest, you know? It's one of those things like every now and again you get a record. There's certain rights you have where it's like, oh, this is very productive. Like, okay, here's the formula. Here's what we're going to do. And then there's just those rights where it's just 5 minutes, everything from the heart. You don't change one lyric, you know? That was one of those times. Don't know where it comes from.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's the way it's supposed to be. You know, I don't think you're really supposed to know. Though I did listen to a little, I need to go back and listen to more of it, but there was a podcast, the Zach Sang Show. Do you know, have you heard of it?
Yeah.
Labyrinth was on there. Oh. I mean, just one of the greatest producers ever.
Mm.
But he was talking about how he channels that feeling more often. And I need to go back and listen more, but I think that he describes how he figures out how to channel that. It's like, it's obviously ability to get into flow state. That's what, you know, it's like where you're not thinking, just doing, but being able to do it more often with something like that. Like I can get it in mixing. It takes me only 5 minutes. Once I sit down, I'm there. Like nothing else matters in the world. But to be able to be a lightning rod for creativity, I think that that's a different way of tapping into flow state.
Yeah. I think it's like, you got to be able to, I think part of being a good artist is like taking dysfunction. And I think like part of the reason why like a lot of artists that you see like, you know, before and even now, like a lot of them are fucked up. And it's like, they have an ability to like channel those fucked up experiences, I think, you know? Like, I don't think there's a whole lot of like cookie cutter artists that do 9 to 5s. It's like, you kind of need like that experiential knowledge, I think. And you're able to like, I think the skill is like being able to channel those dysfunctional moments or trauma or whatever it is into like a creative space, you know? But then you do need the discipline to like sit down and write. And, you know, there is a level of discipline that comes with writing. It's not all like, you know, writing it in 5 minutes. Like there are writes that are more painstaking and you need to get through those as well. But yeah, I think it is like channeling a lot of those emotions that everybody has, but being able to like be a liaison between the emotions and a song. It's like you're kind of like facilitating it, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You are literally just channeling whatever that thing is. It's like, from what I've heard, you are just removing yourself from what's going on and you're allowing whatever the thing is to channel through you into the page.
That's interesting. It's a good way to look at it. I think with writing too, like especially like when I got to LA, like, so before that, I was always like writing alone, solitary writing, where it's like, I don't want to show anybody until it's done. I'm kind of embarrassed to say this word, which is so weird to think, but it's kind of like when you like a song that's kind of like corny and you get like kind of nervous about it. And when you think about it like deeper, you're like, why would I care what somebody thinks what's going into my ears? Like, why is that embarrassing,
Yeah.
But it's the same thing with like songwriting, where it's kind of like, it's vulnerable, But one good thing from being in LA was like being able to try to channel those flow state moments with other people and doing writes, like with Sam and like Rob. And it's like, it's so much more fun, but it takes a while to let your guard down and be like, okay, like I'm going to a writing session. I'm not going to be nervous to float a lyric or a line, And once you get over that, it's like, oh my God, this is way more collaborative. It's not so boring and scary, and solitary. I think it's way more fun with other people. I don't even know if you asked a question about that, but I just went off on a fucking tangent.
I love it. It's good shit. Now I think it would be good to talk about, as long as it makes sense chronologically here, how did Position come about? Because you're signed to them as an artist. You have your publishing with Position. And for those of you listening and watching, Position is, or was known as, pretty much one of the biggest sync publishers around. Then they started moving into just signing artists and producers and wanting to move forward in like the artist space. And I think that you are one of the first, and definitely one that they're pushing super hard. So yeah, I want to hear how that came about and kind of how that changed what's going on in your world.
Yeah, it's all timing, because I think initially before I met Garrett, we were just talking online, and he actually set up a meeting with me and Mark. I was going to fly out to LA, and then the pandemic hit, and that got squashed. But I signed a pub deal because of like previous catalog records, and they thought like, okay, like maybe he could, he could make money on the writing side, but my artist profile wasn't quite as where it is now. And so like initially, I think like a year and a half before I signed as an artist, and I don't even think they had a label at the time. It was just purely like signing my pub to them, and hopefully doing some rights and maybe some sync stuff, and just another way to like have a career, so to speak.
Yeah, you can totally hear the cinematic sync quality in Houndin. Let's just take that for instance. I mean,
yeah, like
incredibly syncable.
Yeah, I know. And I wanted to do records like kind of like NF was kind of, although I don't really listen to him as much, like I like the idea of like big kind of like, I listen to like a lot of scores. Like that's what I'd like to listen to. So I was like, ooh, would it be cool if like incorporating like orchestral scorey type shit, but with like hip hop 808s and like poppy lyrics.
Yeah.
And like dark kind of fucked up lyrics, swearing and stuff like that. I'm like, that's a kind of an interesting juxtaposition. That was like another thing, like at school being like, this would be cool. I don't think anyone's doing this. Just like planting seeds of like, oh my God, I could do something different. But yeah, like he set up the writing session, or the meeting with Mark. It fell through, but we kept like a line of communication open. Then they signed me to a pub deal like a year later, maybe. I think a year and a half before I signed as a label artist. And then came about them, starting their own label service. And at that point, we had already scaled quite a bit. Through me and Garrett and I, through just more songs in the catalog, some shit did well. We were able to like, scale the Spotify numbers. Just perfect storm. Then they signed, and here we are,
Yeah. I want to clarify for people, because maybe some people don't know what sync is, but synchronization, basically ads, trailers, promos, in-show, anything with video, you have that company licensing music from a publisher like Position, and you can make a nice upfront fee. And sometimes if it's not a buyout, which means that you get only a one-time fee, you get royalties on the back end whenever it plays. So amazing thing for artists or writers or artists that want to do a side project that doesn't like interfere with their artist work to make money. So
yeah,
Position is like really, that's their thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I get how unfortunately the pandemic would throw a curveball there, but so things have, they seemingly are great. You have I think, did you say Mike? Yeah, Mike Torres set you up with, Mike Torres, an A&R at Position, set you up with Rob, who's Inverness, right?
Sam, Rob, I think pretty much everybody. Yeah, he's fucking great.
Oh, Brandyn Burnette.
Brandyn, yeah. Brandyn co-wrote a lot of the records on the album.
Shout out Brandyn. Love you, buddy.
He's the best. I mean, he honestly might be the best songwriter I've worked with.
Really?
Yeah, he's great. And
Hell
just quick fucking flows. He's just so creative, you know. Learned a lot from him.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love him as a person. I, of course, haven't been in a room with him, but I mean, I hear all the stuff he's on and it's always great.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, it's like a lot of it's so much as chemistry, you know, but it seems like, you know, Inverness, me, him have a good connection for whatever reason. We just kind of, it's like that flow state thing. It just feels right, you know, and it seems like every time we get in a session, we get, you know, one or two records that we're like, oh, fuck, this could be our bigger song. You know,
what a feeling.
It's such a feeling. But like also with the pandemic, although it threw a curveball, as you were saying that, I was just thinking like it's such a blessing because actually, you know, Garrett, who was in New York City, like came back to Massachusetts. And then I was in Massachusetts. We spent so much time together, like every day, curating the sound, you know, him kicking my ass into making more music and content and just thinking about the future. It was like 2 years of that, which was such a fucking, in hindsight, was like so important for us to get familiarized with each other and to like, for me to learn how to work properly and have a good work ethic. It was like boot camp, you know?
Yeah.
So it kind of led to this, which is like, I feel like everything really does happen for a reason, you know? Had that not happened, like I wouldn't have been able to spend time with him, wouldn't have been as close, wouldn't have been able to, you know, make records together. Any A&Rs, like every record, you know? So I think perfect timing with everything, to be honest.
For sure. Yeah. I think a lot of the people I've talked to, we have to say, like, obviously, financially, I know that COVID hurt a lot of people.
Yeah.
There were a lot of deaths, terrible things that came with it. But a lot of the people that I've talked to, not just on this podcast, but just in general, utilized that time so efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the people that I work with popped off during the pandemic because they didn't sit down and take it easy. That was like turbo.
Yeah. I mean,
Like they just utilized the time well, like you did.
Yeah. And I mean, like you said, like obviously like we're fortunate enough to be able to just like make music in our home, or, you know, it's like there's so many jobs that like you couldn't get into work or whatever. So like, you know, I'm fully aware that like we're very fortunate in that regard. But yeah, I mean, we actually renovated my house. I had like a little room that we turned into a studio. Just cut records, you know, could work remotely. It was fine. Nothing fucking changed.
Yeah.
You know? If anything, it was like more efficient because I was home. It wasn't like, oh, I have to drive to a studio. Well, which I prefer. You know, I don't want to do stuff at home. I'd rather have that be like a reprieve, but it was great, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I was working at a studio before the pandemic, and whenever the pandemic hit, I brought all that home, and I never went back.
Now you get a sick studio.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's, I guess, out of the house. Like I have to actually physically walk out of the house. It does feel like I'm going somewhere.
Yeah.
But like,
you at least have to put pants on.
That, yeah, exactly. But if somebody needs notes, there's not like a 20-minute drive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah. One thing I'm thinking here is I want people listening to this to understand what it feels like to lock in with a producer and really be on the same page creatively, all of that. And what I'm leading to here is like, I love Rob. Inverness is not only a good friend, but I collaborate with him all the time. I get to mix all sorts of stuff with him.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I want people to understand what that feels like whenever you just click with somebody, and maybe to help people listening understand if somebody is right or wrong to produce their record, and especially to EP their record.
Yeah, I think, well, I guess I want to be clear, like, I guess you don't personally need to like somebody to do good work with them, you know? Like, you could ostensibly, like, hate your producer's guts, but if he or she does a great job, it's like, and it works, you know? Because it's like, you can separate music from personality or from friendship. Although like I think it is like such a vibe thing with working with people. And most people are not going to work with you if you're an asshole, if they don't get along, because there's just so many people to work with. Like, why would you work with somebody that you don't get along with?
Yeah.
You know, but I think at like the higher levels, I don't think that matters as much. It's like, whatever. I think it's not dissimilar from like when you meet somebody that you're like, you know, this is going to sound weird, but like if you're going on a date with somebody, or if it's like, you know, a romantic relationship, it's like when you click with somebody, it just feels right. You don't think about time. You're not worried about what you're saying. It just feels right, and you kind of know. And it's like not dissimilar from a producer or a writer, where it's just like you just click intellectually, and you're kind of speaking the same language, and it's flow state, like you said. And it just feels good. Like you get a warm feeling, you know. It's basically that, but like without the romantic aspect of it. It's like a platonic version of that, or like a good friend that you make when you're younger, where you just click, you know. That's very much so how it is, in my opinion. You know, I mean, I can't speak for others, but.
Do you know that from the first session though?
With him, I did. With Inverness, what did I do with him? Yeah, I did Freak Out and Save Yourself with him, like first day. And with Brandyn, same thing. It was like, same vibe, you know, like he would hum a melody, and then I would add on it, and he'd be like, oh, that's fucking sick. And then this lyric, and then I'd be like, oh, let's add this. And then like, it was like 10 minutes in, I think I was texting her. I'm like, this guy's a fucking man, you know? And it just felt good, felt right, you know? And then after you break the ice in that regard, it's like smooth sailing, you know, because you know you're speaking the same language. Rob like could hear what I wanted to do, would add to it, has his own ideas, implements them. They're always sick. He like hums melodies. He's like, what do you think about this? We did Bed with a Psycho. He had like the starter. It was just like, he's literally humming something, and he's like, Psycho. And I'm like, what was that? Bed with a Psycho could be a sick title. And he's like, oh, and if you did this, and he's like, let's get sexy with it. Let's get fucking weird. And I'm like, yeah, let's get weird with it. So it's just like, we get along, we laugh and shit. We fuck around with each other, and then it turns into something like bigger. It's like, oh shit, let's actually do a record like this. Such a chemistry thing, in my opinion. Yeah. You know?
That I can, because I know both of you, I can totally see, well, actually all three of you, I can totally see how that went down, like in my head at least. I hope people listening to that take away that I really do think that probably on the first session, you can feel if this is a great match or not. Actually, probably within like the first sentence, or sitting down, like immediately the vibe is either there or not.
Yeah.
And I know that somebody may have had a bad day, something terrible happened, and they're in this session. And I get you, sometimes you just got to excuse life. But I still think that there's probably some things that you could pick up on, like, man, I really love this person's energy, what they're bringing to the table, how I lyrically match with them, like with Brandyn.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you just double down on it. You just keep on going back to them.
Yeah.
I think that that's the way that maybe the first record is not the best. Maybe the second's not, but you know it's there.
Yeah.
And if you just keep on going and don't give up on that person or that relationship, I think you can make some really good stuff.
Yeah, I agree. And I think another thing too was it's like the mixing 2,000 songs thing. Like I came out here for one summer, and I was in a session like every day with different producers. And I think part of the reason they did that was for that exact point, was to kind of like weed out who I maybe don't work well with, who I work well with, you know. And Mike said that. He's like, find the, 3 or 4 people that you really fuck with, which was good because I needed like a barometer, you know. I needed to know what the measuring stick was, you know. And so at the end of the session, at the end of the 2 months, it was like, yep, Boy Blue, Inverness, cool. Brandyn Burnette, like, this is who I want to work with, you know. There's like 4 or 5 people out of like the 40. But I mean, it sounds like crazy, but it's like, obviously everybody at this level is competent and can do a record, but it's so much like has to be the vibe. I have to understand what you want to do. It's just, everybody's so different, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a perfect way to put it. Okay. Well, cool. Now, I'm curious. Wait, limits like fear are often an illusion. That's what you wrote up on the chalkboard. Yeah. I want to, why is that what you chose of all things to write?
We were just talking about this. I was like, I should get this tattooed on me. I'm a huge hoop fan. This is a Michael Jordan quote.
Okay.
From his enshrinement, his Hall of Fame enshrinement. And I always like that quote because it resonates with me. Because it's like, I think for me, feeling like kind of like an outsider, like I didn't grow up in music, in, you know, a small town, it's like, it can be kind of daunting to think like, how am I going to make it, you know? And I kind of live by that type of sentiment where it's all just relative and it's all in your head. Like you can do anything you want. I really believe that, you know, within reason. And, you know, granted you're healthy and shit, which I've been fortunate enough to be. But like with all of those parameters set, I really believe you can do anything you want. It's not like something I just say and wish for. Like I truly firmly believe that. And so I love that quote.
I mean,
it means
it's
a lot
great.
to me.
It's great. How, with that quote in mind, like how do you go about acknowledging a limit, like a current limit, a mental limit, and how do you go about like breaking it? Because I feel like if we could help people figure that out, I mean, myself included, that's a cheat code for life.
Yeah. Well, I think knowing what you're good at, like we said earlier, like employing the right people in my life that, you know, am I going to be a great manager as good as my manager? No. Am I going to do mixing and mastering? No. But like what I can do, what I'm good at, like do it to the best of my abilities and don't get caught up in other people doing it. You know, oh my God, this person's so far ahead of me. It's like, it doesn't matter. You know, don't operate in fear. Don't not do something because you're worried about failing, you know, rather do something because it could succeed is kind of how I have trained myself to think. And like, you know, I wasn't, and I still have my moments, but like I used to operate in fear and shit wouldn't happen. And now I've just kind of like trained myself to be like, it will happen if I put in the adequate amount of time. And even if it doesn't happen, like something else will happen, you know, along the way, given, you know, the proficient work that you put in. So I just like to remind myself of shit like that, you know, kind of daily. And I'm not one of these people that reads quotes on Facebook, but it's like there's certain little like axioms that I kind of try to live my life by, you know, and not stray too far from.
Yeah, I love that. I guess something kind of just like dovetailing off of that. Recently, you're tearing up TikTok. It's like really popping off. And I want us to dissect that a little bit. And probably there's a lot that we can't dissect because it's really just a crapshoot. You know, it's just like tossing a coin up there. But did you recently start a new TikTok? Or what's going down with that?
I have started probably 25 pages. This is my 25th page.
Oh shit.
I had a bunch of like meme pages that did well. Like during the Johnny Depp trial, I would cut up like parts of the trial and put my music to it at key moments. And dude, like I would spend hours doing this and it would be like funny videos and it would get like 7 million views with my song in it. And I'd be elated. But every comment would be like, go Johnny, Team Johnny, nothing music related, like no spike in streams. So I quickly realized, I'm like, okay, this isn't going to work.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but hilariously, I just had, baby, you're in bed with the psycho. And like Johnny Depp, like, oh my God, that's so perfect.
And it probably would work.
I'm like actually hilarious.
I'm like so afraid to like stray from anything that I've been doing now because I'm like, I'm not fucking this algorithm up.
No, you shouldn't. I want to get into that because you are tearing it up, but that just hit me. That's hilarious because obviously, yeah, that's kind of what it's all about.
Yeah. I mean, it was fun. And honestly, it was good for me to like, I was basically like you said earlier, like I was creating sync on TikTok is what I was initially doing because I'm like, I would use other people's videos and put my song to it and cleverly cut it. But ultimately, TikTok is so like a great exploratory tool for new fans, and they want to like sink their teeth into like you as an artist, not just like some passive fucking video with your song in the background. And that's something that I've learned. I found also very serendipitously, I was like, I'm gonna need to learn how to edit. Much like music, unlike music rather, where I was like, okay, like I have key people that do what they do perfectly. Content is just too like expensive and difficult, where it's like I can't hire somebody to do that every day, especially with TikTok where you got to get like 2 content pieces out every single day.
Yeah.
So I'm like, fuck, what am I going to do? So I was like learning how to edit on Final Cut, getting fairly proficient with it. But like the videos that I would do would be like these ridiculously long, like super highbrow nonsense. Like I'm a superhero and I'm using like FX and I'm like, why did I just fucking do this for like 7 days? But good for me to learn. And learning this like VFX shit, I saw this channel on YouTube and I saw these like young kids and I saw palm trees in the background, these like 18-year-olds that I'm like, oh shit, like these kids are awesome at what they do. Reached out to them and I'm like, at the time I was in LA, this is like 4 months ago. I'm like, fuck, I hope these dudes are in LA. And the dude, his name is Zach, he got back to me. He's like, I'm in San Diego, man. Like, sorry, but I have a buddy who is going to school in Los Angeles. You should link up with him. And I texted this dude and we were texting back and forth and we ended up meeting. And he's 19, he's super hungry. But more than that, he's like super precocious and understands like where he wants to be in 10 years, which is such a like smart, like beyond his years thing to be thinking at his age, you know, which is very like, to me was very alluring. I'm like, wow, that's pretty interesting. Like he's very like precocious for a young kid.
Yeah.
And he just liked the music. He just believed in what I was saying. And I was like, dude, I believe if I get good content like that you can't do on your phone, we could scale this. I'm like, I have no followers on TikTok, but you got to trust me. I know we can do this. He liked the numbers on Spotify, believed in the music. And like, most importantly, was like, I really love your music, man. And I'm like, all right, well, let's try a few things. Came and shot some stuff. For like 2 months, we were kind of petering. We would see like little to no results, although I would see more likes and more people being like, this is a great song. What is this? So there was like a little encouragement, but it was like very much a like no results whatsoever. And then randomly, like 2 months ago, shit just started to like slowly grow and grow and grow. And then on tour, like we're talking like 3 weeks ago, like just fucking shit kind of went nuts. And we got some like viral posts and we're able to niche down. I think one of the biggest things is like having a niche with TikTok, not being super wide and passive, but like knowing what your audience is for music, especially. And like with my music, it's very like alty, kind of like dark, disenfranchised people tend to like it. So it's like we were able to like get a lot of people coming from there. And dude, what an exposure tool. Like no joke, on this tour, 10 to 15 people a night from TikTok. It's like crazy, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's
Wait,
wild.
what would you call the niche of your videos though?
Like
they're so specific.
alt TikTok. Like these are my tags: songwriter, psycho, nightmare, intrusive thoughts. Because like so much of the music is like kind of dark and brooding, and it's like, you know, anxiety. It's testimonial lyrics, obviously. That's kind of what I would try to. That's what I try to like tailor towards, and then hopefully like it scales up. You know, I mean, who fucking knows? But yeah, it's been great as of late.
Do you have any idea why the first one popped off?
So the first one that popped off was one I did with my phone, but it was like, if you like NF, Eminem, 21 Pilots, then you might like me. And it had hounding in the background. And ironically enough, like so many people that I think found me on YouTube, those initial songs, like 2018, were like, holy fuck, I know you. I listened to your music. I got a million comments of like, oh my God, that's you. You sang that song. You sang that song. And it's like, great. Now they have a face. Like, whereas I think a lot of people maybe have listened on Spotify, or like, and we all do this. It's like, who is that artist? I know that song. I don't know who the fuck that artist is.
It's because of playlists.
Because of playlists and YouTube playlists. And it's like, okay, now they were able to put a face to me, like, boom, a couple thousand followers. And it's like, whatever. Like, those are 2,000 hardcore fans that are now from YouTube, now on TikTok.
Yeah, you found them. Brought them over.
Yeah. So that, I think, very luckily, and much to my like career, has been a lot of luck. It's like I had a head start with a lot of dudes starting TikTok pages, in the sense that like I already have like fans from other platforms that just came over, like 5,000 fans initially that like found me on TikTok. they're legit fans, you know? It's not just like, oh, he put up a random video and I might like that song. So I think like they reward you for that, maybe, like the algorithm, and then just slowly scaling, like making sure we spend hours on editing the right video. I mean, it's not like we don't just throw shit at the wall. Like we spend hours editing. Tommy does, you know, and me and Garrett, like filming it, shooting it, blocking it out. It's like a fucking music video, and you got to do it every day. It's like, but it goes to like, you can either complain or you can accept that this is the new paradigm, you know? You got to have content every day. It's just the way it is. Short form content every day.
Yeah. I mean, you're really talking to me right now. Like I'm learning stuff because with this podcast, I'm going to do the same. I have a social media manager that I've hired, and we're going to do 2 posts a day on all platforms. Good. And I mean, I don't have a TikTok page or any of that yet, so it'll be just starting it out. But I mean, that's a lot of work. I understand. I'm not even doing it, but I understand how much work that is. And yeah, I mean, it seems like just continuously doing it. Don't stop. But then if you figure out what's working, just hammer that home.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then I think part of it too might be introducing new things, like, because you know, like with promoting a song, it's like I have a certain concept. I've been doing these ones where I walk and I track my head. It's like at a certain time, like that might get stale. So it's like learning how to introduce new kind of things within the algorithm so that you're not, you know, fucked randomly like a month later and you're not getting any views. It's like, I don't know. I think that is like the formula on TikTok as of now anyways, is to just continuing to be like, you know, to have a niche, which this definitely will, you know, like interview style podcast. People love that shit. And it's like going to be so highly produced with the cameras and the audio, and I'm sure the mix will be great. But it's like, no one can do that. I always try to think like, all right, what can't be done on your phone? You know, because like then you're cutting above. It's like music. It's like you can have, anybody can put a song out, but like who's paying for mixes and masters, and who's paying for production costs and making sure that it's like 99% cut above everybody else. And then you're only dealing with 1% of competition. It's like, I don't think it's dissimilar on content either. You know, it's like, I try to like any money I make, I put back into my career, you know, which is like cinematography, mixing, mastering. It's like, you gotta, unfortunately, like this shit costs money, and you know,
yeah,
you gotta fucking grind. And even when like I wasn't making money on music, like I was making money in another job, like a normal paycheck, and putting it all towards music. You know, you gotta like believe in yourself, I think. And you know,
absolutely, dude, that resonates so deep with me. I mean, a ton of the money that I make went into my studio and into this room. It's like, this is my passion, and I'm going to do it the best I can. Money, putting your money back into your craft matters so much.
Yeah. This is a sick room, by the way.
Thank you.
Did you design this?
Me and my friend Ashley. So I told her what I was looking for, and she helped me bring it to life.
Yeah, it's dope.
So, now it's been many months, and I'm just curious, like, you can flex real quick. How many followers have you gotten on the TikTok?
I think we're at like 60,000, 65,000 almost.
65,000 in how many months?
Like 2 months.
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy, dude. I'm so happy.
No, thank you. I mean, like, you know, I ultimately don't know how the fuck shit happens. You know, I just try to like, if I see something working, it's like, okay, let's work harder. Let's keep doing what we're doing. You know, like I don't ultimately know why shit works. And some posts I post don't do as well. It's like, so much of it is very like in flux. Like, I don't think we really know, but I mean, it's fun putting the work in and seeing results, you know, it's a good feeling.
Yeah. But I think much like songs, you never know which one will pop except for Houndin. I know that you said that you knew that, but you don't know which ones are going to go. But you know, if you don't put the love and care, time, effort, and money into these things, your chances are significantly smaller that something will happen.
Yeah. It's all about just increasing your odds, you know, but it's a lot easier to say that when you have a foundation and fans. It's like, you know, like, I guess for anybody listening, it's like, I tried 25 pages. I had no results. And I was sitting with my cinematographer, like with the same belief and fortitude that I have now, like this will work. This will work, you know, like with 0 followers, 0 views, stuck at like 150 views a post with 10 likes, you know, it's like, I just think if you believe in something and you do it right and you put the adequate amount of time in, it'll work. With videos though, like there are certain videos that I post that I'm like, oh, this is gonna go. There's like a weird intuitive feeling that I have, and sometimes they do rip. And I'm like, holy shit.
I think that's you doing the lightning rod. You're channeling, you know.
Maybe.
I think that's part of the flow state.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
I think you're just more in tune with that. But wait, I'm curious, why did you delete all these other pages and start a new one?
Oh gosh. Well, I didn't want to fuck up my algorithm, but I had like these meme pages, and then I did a page where I was like, did Doja Cat steal my song? And it was Houndin', and because she did that record and obviously like it was tongue in cheek, and like I knew she didn't steal my song, but dude, I got so much flack for that. Like you wouldn't believe the shit that I got for that. Like I became a meme. Like so many people were reposting it, duetting it, and I did it like in front of my bathroom. I was like, did Doja Cat steal my song? And then like all these fucking people would be like, did Doja Cat steal my song? They would like imitate what I was doing. And that's
actually hilarious.
It was fucking funny, but it was untenable after a while. And I was like, dude, I can't respond to these people anymore. Like initially it was really funny. And then I'm like, this is not resulting in streams. This is, if anything, hurting my brand. No one knows that I'm an artist. They just think I'm an asshole who's like accusing Doja Cat of stealing her song. And that's their favorite artist.
Of course.
And so I was like, we got to switch it up. Yeah, we have to switch it up. And we did, thankfully.
That makes sense. I get it.
Yeah.
I was wondering like, why so many pages? And I guess since the algorithm has already kind of labeled your meme pages as meme pages, probably you can't use that one. So yeah. I get it. Whatever you did it right. And I hope that people listening and watching kind of pick up on, I mean, you got to put love, time, and effort, and a lot of the times money into creating content, unless you can do all of that. But then it's going back to, there's no way that you can do a craft at the top level and have time to do all these other things.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have the money, maybe find a bunch of friends who want to rise up with you and you somehow compensate them in other ways.
Yeah.
But you need people who are really great at their craft to play at the top level.
Yeah, totally. And I guess that's not to say like a songwriter can't. Like, I guess for me, it's like I'm not good enough to play guitar, to play piano, to sing a cappella in front of my phone with 0 production, 0 like mixing to cut through. But I have seen like many artists that are fucking awesome, that have dope voices, that write like acoustic songs. Like there is not just one way to do something, but I've always operated in like, I'm going to outwork someone. I'm going to have the best production that I can have. I need to process my vocals. I need to have sick cinematography, because it's like, I don't feel like I have like a great enough voice to just stand out, you know. And it's not being humble, it's just the truth, you know. It's like, I guess like what I would say is the best aspect of my music is the songwriting. And then it's like all these little things like the mix and, you know, Matt's vocals. It's like, it all helps, you know, build something to where it can be, but I need a lot of people involved, you know, rather than just like singing in a fucking parking lot and it sounds unbelievable.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so understanding what you bring to the table and just filling in the gaps.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, then I want to pivot to kind of the main question of this podcast. Although whenever I say that, really the point is this great conversation, and there's so many nuggets along the way. But I'm really curious, what does success mean to you?
I think ultimately it's like being able to have freedom of time. You know, it's like, what can I do that I can kind of have my own schedule? Like, I always talk about this with Garrett, but it's like being able to not answer to someone, to do something that you're passionate about, and to kind of make your own hours and like feel like you can just operate in flow state and not feel like you're working. And then to be able to do things that you want in life rather than being like, fuck, I gotta go to work, which there's like a lot of valor in that, and to each his own. And there's plenty of people that love their jobs, but like I value my time. Like I don't want to work for somebody. I could never do it. I'm just not wired that way where I could follow orders and be a good employee, like personally.
Same.
Yeah.
Very much
Which
same.
I think a lot of creative people are very much so like that. But I value my time, and being able to call my own shots. So like once I got to that level where I was like, had my own hours, like to me, that's success. And then it's not resting on the laurels of that and being like, how do I keep building and continue sustaining a career? And then your goals constantly shift and change, initially it's like, I want to get signed. Then you get signed, you're like, this isn't shit. Like, what's next? Like, I want to be a bigger artist. I want to have a song that passes X amount of streams. And then you do that and you're like, what's next? I think it's healthy to do that within reason and not get like caught up in it, but to have goalposts, and milestones that you want to hit. But I like to just set goals and try to achieve them. Like to me, that's so gratifying. I like to be goal centric, and like once we hit marks, it's like, it's a initial feeling of like, wow, this is great. We did this. What's next?
So
keeps you going.
But like to distill down what you feel like success is the ability to have and make your own schedule, have time and make your own schedule, and not have to not have to run your answers through somebody else's filter. Like you want to be able to create and do what you do on your own time.
I mean, yeah, like I guess like it's so subjective, and it's like success in what capacity? Like I want to have a successful relationship, I want to have a successful like life. It's outside of music, but like for what I do in a career, like I want my success to be, to afford me my own time, which I guess like not having money is not having time, because you need to put in time to work and to make money, and like you're not on your own schedule. It's like I often think like, what is the amount of money that it would take for me to just be like, okay, I don't need to do anything anymore. Like that amount of money I wouldn't need anything more than that. I would just need whatever could afford me to like not have to answer to a boss or whatever, which seems like super privileged and shit, but it's like, I just want to work towards that. It's not like I have that. It's just, I want to work hard to be lucky enough to have that.
Yeah. I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to pivot off of that, I kind of one of the last questions I'd like to explore is what do you think that you've done along the way throughout your career or life that have brought you to this point where you're signed as an artist, a pub deal, you are doing music for a living? I'd like to maybe like distill down to a couple of bullet points for people watching and listening. Like what can they do to have similar success that you've had?
I think, well, you got to work hard, obviously, but more than working hard, you kind of have to work. You have to work creatively and think outside the box. Like finding ways. Like for me, initially, it was finding ways to email managers, which I knew people weren't doing. They're just like putting their shit on SoundCloud or putting their shit on Spotify, and I'm like, that doesn't work. Like I'm gonna go directly to a manager, sell the manager, then the manager will sell me. So it's like I try to employ ingenuity. I think like at the crux of it though, like you need to have a lot of fortitude and self-belief, and not just like feigning it, but you have to really believe in it. Because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else is going to believe in you, and you won't be able to exemplify that and articulate that to other people that matter in the industry, because they can very quickly see that you're insecure or you don't believe in what you're doing. And if you have a vision, like you need a clear, concise vision of what you want to do, and then you just work towards it, And if you put in the amount of time and don't waver, and you really love what you do, and I think you do need to love what you do, because shit is hard as fuck, especially trying to cut through in the music industry. And it's like you will have so many bumps in the road. And if you don't like what you're doing or love what you're doing, you're going to give up. That's just like in anything in life. If you don't really care about it, when shit gets tough, like you will give up. Like the other million jobs that I've had where I'm like, fuck this. I don't want to do this, you know? So you need to be like unwaveringly focused, and you need to really like what you're doing and work towards it. And if you keep doing that over time, I truly, like, this from my own experience, I just feel like you'll be successful in one way or another, you know? And maybe other opportunities will arise. Maybe it's not what you thought it would be initially, but you'll make connections, and maybe you're still in the industry, but you're in a different, you know what I mean? Different capacity. But I do think that shit irons itself out.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess to distill that down, like, you dropped out of college because you felt this was the right time. You had a track that popped some. I mean, I'm sure it popped really well, but like couldn't afford you life forever, but it made you feel like I can do this, and you acted on that. Yeah. That's a strong, whenever we were talking, I was like, that's the essence of someone who will make it.
Yeah.
You know, just believing in something, like a little pat on the back, like you can do this, and then you just run.
Yeah, it's like a little win. You have like so many, like I think a lot of people have misconstrued what making it is, but it's like grinding, like for 6 or 7 years doing music. It's like these little wins that you have that, like you said, like that initial onslaught of success for me. And it's like, I'm detailing cars, but I would be like, I'd have my headphones in, I'd be like, and I would just have such a feeling of joy, like, holy fuck, we can do this. Like if I just save my money and I'm like planning out what I'm going to do, and like I'm not bothered by the shit work that I'm doing, because I know that, oh my God, I'm going to go to the studio in a week and record another song. It's like, keeps you going, you know? And then just slowly compounds, I think, as long as you keep working at it.
Yeah. Yeah. The last point, whenever you're talking, you were saying the mental fortitude, and a couple of the guests I've had, we've talked about, and I talk about this kind of often with people, but I think that you have to be obsessed with whatever it is you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. Obsessed gets a bad rap, but I think you have to be obsessed and delusional, kind of, to just keep on getting punched in the face and just keep going forward. And for music, I mean, you really need that. That's the mental fortitude. It's like, how many times can I get punched and just keep going? Mm-hmm. You have to be obsessed to the point where your friends invite you to this, or you have this going on over here, or you want to watch that TV show and you're like, no, I got to sit here and get this thing done, because this is what's going to get me to where I want to go.
Totally, yeah. And I think, like, for anybody who doesn't do that, I think once you start training your brain to do that, once you go through like the hard times, you actually appreciate it. It feels good to do it, and even in the moment, because you're like, oh, okay, like, and I'm like, with tour, like I'm like, okay, in a month I'm going to be relaxing. Like this is going to be so worth it. I'm going to appreciate my relaxing times because it's earned. You know, it's like everything needs to be earned, in my opinion, to really like have a sense of value. Otherwise, what are you doing? And you don't really understand what you're doing because you didn't earn it. You know. But I definitely, like with the delusional thing, like in the beginning, I was very much delusional as to what I could do. And I had no experiential knowledge, no barometer. But that was, like you said, it was like, I needed that, because if I knew what I knew now about the industry, I would never start.
Same. Absolutely same. I was actually thinking about that in the shower today.
Really?
I was like, man, if I would have known all the shit that I'm going to get drugged through, I was just looking back throughout like my time in music, and I was like, man, if I could actually really paint this in somebody's mind, I think that I would turn them away from doing this. But the one way I can get away from that is just saying, you got to be delusional. Like if you just look through our lens, just get drugged through the shit and like have fun, pretend like it's a slip and slide.
Yeah.
Slip and slide of shit.
Yeah, no,
You know?
It's true. I definitely feel that you got to be kind of crazy in your own head. I also weirdly feel like if you really believe in that, like shit weirdly does, like whether you're like attuned to it, I kind of do believe that though, like the serendipity of people being kind of thrust into your life, like yourself. And it's like, you told me that story about hounding today. It's like, I didn't know that, you know, I had no idea that you knew that song.
Yep.
You know, with my cinematographer, he has like a crazy story where he like went to his like grandfather's grave and like he's like, please like give me some success or something. And then like that day we linked up, like I hit him up on the phone and we had a meeting. It's like, it's just so weird, you know, how that shit works. But I do kind of believe in that, to be honest.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah.
as an atheist, I was very into science, which I still am. And while that's not science, I can see how many times something has worked. And then at that point, you're just kind of silly if you don't see that. Or at least I would have been silly if I didn't see that, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said. I think like you and I probably align more than we might think on that. I guess it's like an energy thing, like an energy field that, you know, might not be like apparent, but to your naked eye, but there is something there, I feel, you know, like you said, it's like too many, there would be far too many coincidences. And so many people have the same story where it's like, yeah, like 50 different things happened to me that led me here. It's like, what, you know?
Yeah.
Just seems so planned almost. It's crazy.
Hell
It's
yeah,
fun
dude.
though. Fun ride.
It is a fun ride that we are on together.
Alternative Psycho. It was out the 9th of June. And hopefully you've already been listening to a lot of the records on it. And your boy mixed and mastered the entire album. And great job, man.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Dude, we killed it together.
You're the man.
Yeah, please go stream that. It's an incredible body of work.
Thank you.
I really love it from start to finish.
Yeah, me too. You're a big part of it. And, you know, will continue to be a big part of my career. So I appreciate you, bro.
Thanks, man. And maybe by the time that this is coming out, there will be some other releases to TBA.
Yeah. Just follow me on TikTok.
Exactly. by that time, we might have 100,000 followers.
We'll see. Who knows?
Hell yeah, dude. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Hell yeah. All right. So now that you've heard the final episode of season 1 with Layto, I'm sure that you have a much better glimpse of who he is, how he develops a team around him, you know, like the relationships involved in making music, how his work ethic has gotten him to where he is now. You know, he has tried so many different things with different social platforms, with music, with careers, that he's honed in who he really is. And I think that that's super admirable. And I'm sure, you know, you learned a lot of things from him. I wanted to start out on the key points of what he wrote on the chalkboard. It was a Michael Jordan quote, and it says, "Limits, like fears, are often an illusion." I mean, of course, I love this quote because I feel like everything in music and everything creatively and everything that you have to think outside of the box, fear is something that we constantly run into. We're so ingrained in like a particular way of living life that's easy and comfortable, because I think humans like comfort. Of course, fear is just a constant thing that we're having to break down. And so this quote touches home, but then how he elaborated on it, I think his superpower is that he surrounds himself with people that complete what he lacks. So Layto talks about his strengths in this episode, and he also talks about things that he's not great at. He, you know, doesn't play instruments. He didn't want to take the time to learn how to be able to produce a track, like get the perfect idea and sound out of his head into a song. He wanted to find producers that he could work with that could understand him and complete what he's lacking. And as a result, he has actually gotten music out that sounds incredible, and it's authentic because he's able to resonate through the people he is around what he wants. And why this breaks down fear is that somebody could sit there and analysis paralysis, like thinking, oh, I have to learn how to produce. I have to learn how to write. I have to learn how to sing. I have to, like, all these things, and never actually get moving. But in this scenario, Layto knew where he wanted to go. He knew what he brought to the table, and he found people to surround himself with to take him there. So he broke down that fear wall of getting moving. And that's why, you know, he's getting a lot of TikTok followers and plays, and he signed, you know, as an artist, and he signed a pub deal. So huge key for the final episode here. Another huge key. I love this. And we all understand that we have to continue to move forward and persevere through hard times, right? Like that's like the essence of what makes somebody successful, is their ability to keep on getting hit in the face and continue to move forward. But Layto said that he had somewhere around 25 TikTok channels. I find this crazy that he tried different niches, tried different avenues, tried to find different fans over and over and over until finally something stuck. And once he found that niche that people really resonated with his music, his vibe, his look, his everything, he just started hammering that home. And I find so much admiration in that. Like, to be able to quote unquote fail that many times, but just continue to move forward because you know what you're offering the world. You just have to find the people. That little story was pretty awesome. Go follow him on TikTok and you'll see like his vibe on there and how well his videos are doing. Lastly, I want this to be the last key point of season 1 because it's so truthful. It's so real. It is the essence of what it takes to be somebody in music. And I wrote this down and I'm going to read it straight from here instead of trying to, remember from memory here. If I could paint into your mind how tough it was going to be getting into the music industry and all of the shit that you would have to go through at any point in time to get any sort of success to the point where you're actually able to live off the income from music alone, I would definitely go on record and say that 99.999% of people would not even try. It is so painfully tough to make it in music, to make it in any creative field. So the point here that I would like to make is that you have to be incredibly delusional, almost to the point where you find fun and you get like this sense of joy and a spark of life every time you walk through, swim through shit. It's going to be tough. People around you are not going to help you until you are able to help them. You are going to continuously hear no's. You're going to run into financial troubles, stress troubles, maybe health troubles because you are working yourself to death. None of this sounds good and it's probably not healthy, but it's reality. And those that are able to just continue forward with this delusion that one day it's all going to be worth it, I'm going to make it, and you never stop. You might doubt yourself at times, but as long as you keep moving forward and you find fun and you make a game out of it and you just continue forward, you will have a breakthrough. It will happen. You just have to keep going. You have to keep going. Keep your goal in mind and just keep moving. It will be incredibly tough. And if I could somehow take my head and my heart and my body and everything that I've gone through and I made somebody feel what I have had to go through to get here, I am certain that nearly every single person would just quit immediately. I would too. We talk about it on this podcast. I would quit, probably knowing all of this. But the reason I didn't is because I had fun in the challenge. And I'm not to where I want to go one day. I want to be somewhere further along and doing music that touches more lives. But sitting here today, I am so stoked on where I am. And the only reason I'm here is because I found fun in continuing on. And my delusion is so high that I never really thought that I wouldn't make it. And I still don't. I am like a little kid in a sandbox, just having a great time. And I think that that is really the essence of what it takes to keep going and having any sort of success where you can live off of music. So hopefully season 1 has impacted your life in such a way that, you feel more equipped to go after this career in music. And I hope next season we just keep on building on that. So thanks so much for listening. This means the world to me, and I'll catch you on next season. Thanks for listening to the Grounds for Success podcast. I want to thank all of the people who work on this podcast and help me out. My team is everything to me, and without them, I couldn't bring these to you every single week. I couldn't post on social media, with all the clips that we have, and so I thank you guys so much. I want to also thank all of my clients on the mixing and mastering side, because without you, I could not have Grounds for Success. So thank you so much. If you're enjoying the Grounds for Success podcast, please follow, like, and subscribe on whichever platform you're listening or watching on. It helps us out a ton, and I want to keep getting this content to you in whichever way you listen or watch.